Hello, citizens! I have been compelled to share my thoughts on the Marvel Universe. After watching Thor, Love and Thunder and the Miss Marvel TV show, I really feel like the MCU has reached a point where people are just going to skip a lot of the films and TV shows. You'll have different people skipping different media, but I think there's just too much content for people to commit to watching all of it. Once we just had a few films leading up to an Avengers team-up with Thanos on the distant horizon, but now I feel forced to watch mediocre shows and average movies just to have an understanding of these heroes. And I really resent having to watch Marvel shows just to get the full story arc of characters, rather than seeing them on the movies that they first appeared on. I feel there's just too much content now, and that I expect for people, including myself, that Marvel is more about picking and choosing what you want to watch. Marvel can't create agency for the audience to care about these new heroes now. The shows are also falling into a disappointing pattern of starting out feeling fresh and interesting, then developing massive third act syndrome, and closing out with a boring action sequence CGI fest. It just creates so much viewer fatigue. Every time that I end a season feeling underwhelmed, it kills my excitement for the next show. And when your projects have become somewhat formulaic, it becomes easier to tune out. Marvel's at a point where they're more interested in quantity rather than quality. Once I would have been excited to show up to the movies on opening night, but I'm sort of indifferent now and just note the new stuff in case something really good does come out. I've begun to shift my approach to MCU to match what my approach is for reading comics. There's no way I could ever subscribe to everything, so I choose the books that I'm really interested in, and they'd sometimes run into little mentions or references to other books that I just have to Google or choose to not care about. It's only going to continue to get harder to keep up with everything, and we're all going to have to make that choice at some point, I think. I hope Marvel knows this, that they need to embrace it and start catching people up in bigger Avengers movies, or know that a lot of people have skipped the shows. In this way, DC has an easier time of introducing new characters to us, because there isn't this massive backlog of films to catch up on. I happily enjoy the one well-made Joker film, or maybe the trilogy of Batman films, and just leave it at that. It's easier for audiences to consume and leaves directors open to create other new interesting interpretations of that same character. But getting back to the MCU, it has become like the Ouroboros, with each new story only serving to perpetuate the machine of content. It's gotten so big that nothing really seems to matter anymore. They will need to have some sort of a reset like Spider-Man to feel like the character's stakes matter, before it all just kind of blurs together. Bring the focus back to the characters, scale things back. Miss Marvel did not need a world-ending malevolent force. It could have just been a short, tight teen coming into superpowers, with focus on a story about how a community reacts. MCU is a victim of its own success. I think the MCU's just gotten too big now. It can be fun that there's a tie-in show and movies lead into or stem from one another, but when every show and every movie becomes necessary for the story, it becomes really tedious. I know there's still millions of people who love this stuff, but for me, it is just too much work to keep current and know everything that's going on, and I feel the problem is only really going to get worse. Anyway, those are my thoughts. If you have any other thoughts, please put a comment below, and I'd be really interested to read them and hear from you guys. Anyway, see ya!